Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tamagotchi video. This time I'm going to be talking about my absolutely favourite type of Tamagotchi, and that is the Tamagotchi Nano series. Now, I've gone through quite a few of these on the channel before, but those were typically reviewing each individual Nano separately, and this is more of one that is all of them together. And also, I just really like running these, and I just love talking about them. So the two that I have here is the Gudetama, which is the Tamagotchi and Gudetama Tamagotchi, and this one's a little bit different. I have reviewed it on the channel before, so I won't go over anything that I've covered too much before, but effectively this is a fairly unique Tamagotchi because essentially the goal is for you to kill it eventually. Now what I mean by that is that it is an egg, and you have to look after this egg. And then the level of care that you give it, so that this part's normal for Tamagotchi. So the level of care and the type of games that you play with that Tamagotchi basically results in it evolving a certain way. That part is fairly standard for Tamagotchi Nanos. All the Tamagotchi Nanos are more or less like that. However, the way that you get that evolution is that it eventually just dies. So that is the main point of it, is to raise your Gudetama. So you give it soy sauce as the food, and then you give it tomato sauce. No, just tomato, sorry, as the snack. So it's full, so it doesn't eat anymore. And you can check on its status with C. So a lot of the gameplay is fairly similar to the other Tamagotchi Nanos. It's just that that unique twist that it requires you to kill it effectively to get different evolutions. And there's also only one game. You have to guess which one has the Gudetama, which egg. Or not guess, and I keep on forgetting that I have to select it. So you have to kind of watch where it goes and then select it, and I'm really bad at the controls. And I wasn't paying attention there. So yeah, the reason to do this video is because I really like talking about the Tamagotchi Nanos, and they are by far my favourite of the Tamagotchi Nano virtual pets, and I believe them probably to be some of the best virtual pets available. And my reasons for that being is that they are perfect just for my lifestyle. So I am fairly busy during the day, and I don't particularly have time to check a virtual pet several times an hour, or maybe even once an hour. That's a lot for me. And that's just me. And sometimes on weekends, I don't really want to have my Tamagotchi with me. Like, I go out and do things. I go out and, I don't know, walk the dogs or something, or hang out with people. So I don't really want to be checking my Tamagotchi all the time. So I find the Tamagotchi Nano is fairly easy to deal with in the regard that you don't really have to check it all that often. It is fairly low maintenance. Now, while that might be a negative for some, because some people want to actually feel like they are required to take care of this thing, I personally just find that just charming about the Tamagotchi Nano. Like, if I leave one at home, it's not going to die if I just leave it at home all day when I'm at work. Or if I get too busy to check it, it's not going to die. A lot of the other virtual pets are a little bit more harsh in terms of that. The Tamagotchi Uni, for example, which I also think is a fairly good Tamagotchi, if you have an adult and you get a certain number of care mistakes, it dies, and it can just die if you just don't check it enough in the morning or throughout the day. There is a sitter functionality, but otherwise it is a little bit more high maintenance. And there's also recently the Digimon Color, the hearts drop really quickly, and it's easy to make care mistakes. These, while yes, the care still does tend to factor into what evolutions that you get, the overall level of care isn't as high as other virtual pets, which is something I like about it. There are, of course, characters that are harder to get, and some of the Tamagotchi Nanos do require a little bit more care or more effort put into them, but that's just part of the fun. Like, if in terms of just running something because you like Tamagotchi, not necessarily because you want to raise a certain character, then that's fine. But yeah, I really think that they are great in terms of how easy they are to run. So I've got the Chopper-Chi here because I am finally getting into One Piece. You'll notice that the menus are actually icons rather than words. So instead of Tabemono and Gemu, we have icons being a knife and fork, and I think that's just Chopper's face. So the top one signifies the food. We've got meat on the bone as the food and cotton candy as the snack. And then we, of course, have the games, which there are 2 of on this one. So the thing about the Tamagotchi Nano is that most of them do just have the same selection of games, just with a different skin depending on what the theme of the Tamagotchi is. Some of them have more unique games, like the Pac-Man Nano, the Gudetama Nano. They have fairly unique and games rather than just having a reskin of a game that's been on other ones. So there's a typical pool of games that they might have. So we've got the aiming one and the catch one. Some other examples of games are a memory game where it's like Simon Says, you're not meant to catch the knives, sorry. Sorry, Chopper. So, there's the Simon Says game where it says AA and then you have to press AA and then it says AB and then you press AB and that's the game. And then there's a button mashing game. There's a dodge game, which is kind of like the reverse of the catch game, but I guess this is kind of both catch and dodge. And there are a few others that have just sort of made appearances. This is probably one of the only ones that doesn't have a button mashing game. The button mashing game is typically my favorite because it is the easiest, but that's what I would say is the most common of the games. I feel like that's on most of the Tamagotchi Nanos, except for these 2, which are the 2 that I'm running at the moment. So the other thing that I like about the Tamagotchi Nano is that they have so many different skins or styles. They were coming out fairly often and I was feeling kind of burnt out from them at some point because they all were just so similar. They were effectively very similar in terms of gameplay, just with different characters available, and some of them were a little bit too samey for my liking. But if you're just getting 1 or 2, I can't imagine that being an issue. So the thing I like about them is that they've got different themings or skins or collaborations depending on what the franchise is. And if you are into a specific franchise, maybe there's already been a Tamagotchi Nano for it. There are a few really popular series at the moment, like Demon Slayer, which has so many Tamagotchis. There's also Tokyo Revenger, there's Jujutsu Kaisen, and then of course there's One Piece, and there's other ones, there's like Star Wars ones, there's various different ones for various different popular franchises. So if you're into any specific franchise, there's probably a Tamagotchi Nano for it, which means that they're kind of easy to pick up. Unfortunately, their retail price in Australia is kind of a little bit surprising. It's about $50 Australian, but they come down in price fairly quickly if you wait until after release. They also get sold secondhand quite cheaply for like 15 Australian, so that's not too bad. There is, of course, the option of importing them from Japanese websites. I got most of mine from Japanese websites. This video is not sponsored, but I've had nanos from Japan You Want, Zen and TCG, HobbyLink Japan. So those are my main go-tos if I'm importing. And of course, proxy services like Buy-in from Japan. Again, not sponsored. Those are just ones that I've used. And then, of course, you can buy them locally, which I have done when it's been cheaper than importing, but there's usually a little bit of a delay between the Japanese release and the local Australian release. But yeah, I love Tamagotchi Nanos. There's also, on most of them, some of them have such a large roster that they don't have this functionality, but every hour there's a little animation that plays. The Jurassic Park one or the Jurassic World one is pretty cool because it plays scenes from the movies, which is pretty cool, and I know a lot of Jurassic Park fans who absolutely love that. And the One Piece one has other characters from the series pop up, and that's pretty cool. I do like that. Of course, as I mentioned, if a Tamagotchi Nano has a huge roster, they haven't included those animations. The example being the Kamen Rider one, and I think the Fate Stay one also might not have it. The Kamen Rider one definitely doesn't. And then lastly, when I mentioned it being like effectively a skin of the same sort of thing, each of them has a poo equivalent, which on a Tamagotchi virtual pet, they go to the toilet and you have to like clear up their poo. On the Tamagotchi Nano, it sometimes is poo. On the Jurassic World one, it's poo. On a few of them, it's poo. Sometimes you have to cheer them up when they're sad. Chopper starts hiding and you have to find him. They're just sort of different equivalents for poo, and I think that's pretty sweet. They're not just all pooping, they're doing other things. That's kind of cool. It's usually like hiding, or in the case of, I believe, the Vocaloid one and the BTS one, it's sheet music that you have to clean up, so that's kind of funny. So they've got different things. So yes, I do love the Tamagotchi Nano, and I definitely recommend them to anyone, especially if you like a specific franchise they've done a collaboration with, or if you've got a fairly busy life like me and you don't really have time to be checking a Tamagotchi all the time. They really are just kind of perfect, and they are fairly small. They're a lot smaller. They are kind of thick, which is annoying, but other than that, yeah, they're pretty cool. And some of them have little cases that they hang out in, or stands or whatever, so that's pretty cool as well. Kind of wish the One Piece one did. But in any case, those are my thoughts on the Tamagotchi Nano. Let me know your thoughts, comments, questions, etc., in the comment section below. Like this video for yay Tamagotchi Nano. Subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have subscribed, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!